Good evening and welcome to the FITT Show. Financial information for today and tomorrow. I'm Bobby Kinzer.
And I am Thomas Doty.
And welcome to the FITT Show, a show where we try to provide as much knowledge we can about handling your finances and personal money management, creating wealth, and creating more, particularly and specifically generational wealth. Now, we're here every Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'd like to tell you that please share this information on Facebook and on everybody who's on YouTube. Please subscribe and have your people to share it and have your people to subscribe to our channel on YouTube. Now, last week we talked about the 2021 year in review and moves to make. This week we're going to be talking about safeguarding your assets and protecting your wealth. And it may not be what you may think it is. We're not talking about just insurances. We're not talking about asset protection in the sense of estate planning. But stay tuned. We're going to get into it. Before I go any further, I'd like to remind you to please go out there and click on the like button. That's the thumbs up button as many times as you can because that helps us get traction. It's called engagements. And make sure you click on the heart button and please put comments in the comments box because that helps us to, and actually that helps expand to viewers even more widely. If you have a question, if you want clarification, or you have a topic you want us to discuss, please put it in the comment box and we will definitely respond to it because we're not making this a one-way communication. We want to make it interactive, going both ways. So, Dote, how you doing today?
I couldn't be better, Big Bob.
Oh, dang, I like hearing that kind of stuff, man. You had a good week?
Slow motion, retired life, man.
Yeah, but the market's been doing some crazy stuffs, man. So
I
let's
tell you,
let's let's start with our the way we start the show now and talk about the market updates.
it's been another crazy week. Last week it was a market that went down a bunch. This week it's really it's been going up, kind of recovering from what happened last week. I mean, the Dow is up about 3% last week to this week. Last week it closed at 34,500. Today it closed at 35,800. The Nasdaq is up. It's up about 2%. It it closed at 15,500. It was as low as 15,000 one day in the past week, but it's recovered well. Some of the personal stocks that I watch, Microsoft, it started the week off at about 325, and it's actually at 333 now, but it got as low as 320 after one of the crazy days. Apple had a real good week. It closed last week at 163, but it's now 175, and it got as low as 161. And finally, the Pfizer I bought, which is, again, that was a dividend play for me. It started the week at 53, and right now it's at about 52. So this has just been a crazy volatile week. Luckily, it's up more than it's down, but there's no telling what's going to happen next. And we talked a little bit last week about if this volatility scares you or leaves you unable to sleep, then again, you need to look at your risk tolerance and adjust it accordingly. There's so many crazy things going on right now between the pandemic, China and their superpower wants, Russia's talking about invading Ukraine. You got political issues, you got civil rights issues. There's so many things going on. But what most people are worried about is why their dollar is not going as far as it used to. They are, most people are just worried about paying the bills, getting their kids through college, and saving for a comfortable retirement. And everybody's worried about how to protect their money, how to keep their money buying power at a high rate. And so that's what we're going to talk about today, because of all the other crazy stuff that's happening, there's not much you can do about the pandemic or what Russia's doing, China, political, but you can do something to hedge inflation, to make it less of a draw on your earnings. And that's what we're going to talk about today.
Well, I'm gonna give you my market update, Dote, and it usually starts with the cryptocurrency update. And the cryptocurrency took a big hit again. It took a hit, went down and came back up, but it went back down. And I specifically talk about Bitcoin and Shiba because those most current ones, they like in the top 20. Bitcoin is the number one cryptocurrency, but the cryptocurrency market cap dropped from $2.7 trillion to $2.4 trillion from last week. And that's like a 300 billion market cap drop. Bitcoin dropped to $47,522 per Bitcoin. Now, its all time high was November 11th, 2021, at $69,045. Now, last week, Bitcoin had gotten up to half of the market cap. I told you the market cap was at 2.7 trillion. Bitcoin had $1 trillion of the market cap, and that's pretty good. But it has dropped down to $898 billion of the market cap, which is still good, and that is taking outpaced like obviously all the cryptocurrency that's out there. Now, a lot of people have been tracking Shiba Inu because that's the most popular one. I mean, there's a boat. By the way, when I was tracking and did a PowerPoint presentation for some HBCUs in around about March or April, there were about 6,500 cryptocurrencies. To date, there's 13,000. And basically, they say, anything other than the Bitcoin is considered an altcoin. And a lot of it, they call it crap. They actually call it crap coins because there's so many out there trying to. And if you know how Bitcoins work, it works on um, um, consumer sentiment because it's not backed by anything, but like people start putting money in as they go up, more people, it makes it more attractive. But Shiba Inu is down. It's 30-day. It dropped to 29%. Now cryptocurrency it dropped from okay, cryptocurrency it dropped about 37% in a month. But for the year, cryptocurrency is up 160% still. So that shows you about cryptocurrency. Though I had Apple too. So glad to have Apple because Apple is everybody else's share prices is going down, but Apple seemed to be going up despite all odds. So something's going on with Apple. I also had a similar. I have a semiconductor stock, which is those chips that's in smart cars, smartphones, um, and that took a hit, but it's still up over 100% of what I bought it at approximately 6 years ago. Been holding that. Another stock though that has been doing well, and I was holding for the longest, man, was Siri. Because I remember when they were, it was Siri and XM radio, and this was with terrestrial radio,
Serious.
the regular. What I say? Sirius. What I say? Siri.
You talking about Apple? Siri,
I
yeah,
meant to be.
serious.
I meant to say Sirius. Yeah, but the symbol looks like Siri Tech. That's why I'm getting mixed up. But that thing hasn't done it. It's went up. I bought it years ago at $1.50, and it's gone up to $6, and it's been holding at $6 for over um shoot, about what 5 years. It's interesting. The um what do you call that particular radio? Satellite
Satellite,
radio.
yeah.
Satellite radio. It's still up, but it hasn't moved, and it's interesting that it hasn't. But I did still made out from that. So we want to talk about today, though. What's going on today? Now, a dollar today is not worth a dollar tomorrow, and that's how inflation comes into. A lot of people hear about inflation. Like you said, there's so many things going on in the world, in the market, culturally, health wise. Um, but inflation, it seems to be on most people's minds because it increased from about 2% to about 6% in the last in this last year. And inflation can eat through your savings. Being too conservative can lead to erosion of your assets, but not keeping pace with inflation. Inflation is caused by a rise in the price of goods or services. A rise in the price of goods or services driven by supply and demand. A rise in demand can push prices higher, while a supply reduction can also drive prices. Demand can also rise because consumers have more money to spend. So demand can also rise because consumers have more money to spend, while consumers experience a little benefit from inflation, as far as if you're holding like energy stocks and price of gas is going up, that's going to help you. But most of the times inflation is is against goes against people. It deteriorates the purchasing power of your dollar. And but if the economy is performing well and housing demand is high, home building companies can charge higher prices for selling homes. That's how inflation can help you. It increases the prices of goods and services over time, effectively decreasing the number of goods and services you can buy with a dollar in the future, as opposed to a dollar today. So, if wages remain the same, but inflation causes the price of goods to increase over time, it will take a larger percentage of your income to purchase the same good or service in the future. Essentially, you have a dollar in your pocket today. That dollar's worth or value will be lower 1 year from today if you keep it in your pocket. For instance, if you took a dollar and put it under your pillow and it didn't earn anything, and last year a pack of gum was a dollar, and this year gum went up to $1.50, and all you have a dollar, guess what? You're not going to be being able to buy no gum. So that's what we want to get into when we talk about today: volatility and inflation. We want to talk about how can you safeguard your assets against these particular occurrences. Now we know there's a whole lot of other things that can affect your portfolio, but these are some current things that can immediately affect your portfolio, and at least one of them, or no, actually two of them, you actually can do something about them. So, Doe, let's talk about the first step of fighting volatility and inflation.
Yeah, and we often talk about reviewing your portfolio, and it can be real tricky because you need, we feel, for, especially for us personally, you need to be invested in the stock market to take part of the growth. But as we talked about before, with all this volatility, that may make you uncomfortable investing in the stock market. It's a very delicate line you have to walk, because if you are too conservative, inflation will eat your money up. As Bob just talked about, your buying power will go down, your savings will go down if you are invested too conservatively, because the interest that you receive or the gains you receive will not keep pace with inflation. On the other end, if you're too aggressive, you will fall victim to all of the volatility issues we talked about with the pandemic and the political issues and things of that sort. So this point is going to be different for everybody. You have to find your own sweet spot of where you are invested enough in the market to be aggressive and try and withhold or limit the effect of inflation, but at the same time, you need to be conservative to a point that you're comfortable with how much you have invested in the market, so you're still able to sleep at night. So you can't be too aggressive, you can't be too conservative. The truth is somewhere in between, and that point is different for everybody. Like I'm much riskier than Bob, and it's not a right or wrong. It's what you're comfortable with and what you are able to sleep with. But if you are 100% conservative, your your buying power will go down every year. And so we always talk about over the long haul how the market has done. And that's not in any one short little time frame. It's over the long haul, over years. So find your sweet spot, review your portfolio, and come up with an amount that you're aggressive enough to be invested in the market, but not so much that you lose sleep at night. And Bob's going to go through some of the other things that can help you hedge inflation.
Yeah, don't First of all, I want to say hello out there to my man Charlie Williamson. How you been, dude, out there? How you been, Charlie? And my brother, my little brother, Carl Chapman. I love my brother. We played ball. He came behind me at Wilson, and I want to say hello to the wonderful, our, constant viewer, Garnett Nickens. Hello out there, Garnett. Glad you can join us. Though I want to talk about another inflation winner, and that's real estate, and it comes in different components. Now, one real estate product that can really help you against inflation is called a RIT, a real estate investment trust. And they are companies that own and operate income producing real estate. The property prices and rental income tend to rise when inflation rises. So a RIT consists of a pool of real estate that pays out dividends to its investors. It has other incentives like tax opportunities, and you can buy these in a mutual fund because, like I said, they pool real estate together into a trust, and that sort of balances out the risk, and it has so many other advantages, and it definitely is an inflation hedges against inflation. The other one is, you could purchase real estate. You could buy a home if you don't have one, and the reason that is because homes as inflation goes up, the prices usually of homes go up. So you can, if you got a property, it definitely is an inflation fighter. And if you don't have a home, consider buying a second home because it helps you in this particular inflationary times. And do you have any comment on that, Dode, about purchasing, having a home, or purchasing more, or purchasing a bigger home?
Yeah, because as you say, and and again, we just so I'll say this up front, we are anti-debt. We don't think that's not necessarily good, but inflation in inflationary times, debt is not a bad thing because just as you lose the buying power of a dollar that you hold, the value of money that you owe also goes down. So if you owe $1,000 today and inflation hits that, you don't the buying power of that $1,000 is lessened by the effects of inflation. So again, we're not telling everybody to go out here and borrow as much money as you can. You have to be able to support that debt. But if you're doing it for an income producing item like real estate, then it's not bad because in inflationary times, the value of real estate is going to go up. And the value of your debt goes down over time, over inflationary times.
And I just want to add as a disclaimer, yeah, we're not saying, debt is not good, but then there's also debt that is good. But you got to know which debt to be managing that's to your advantage. And that was an interesting one, though, that, as inflation goes up, debt actually works in your favor because you already spent the money on it,
Right.
right? But another one is income producing property like rental income. Real estate works well with inflation. This is because as inflation rises, so do property values, and so does the amount a landlord can charge for rent. This results in the landlords earning a higher rental income over time. This helps you keep pace with the rise of inflation. Another one is consider a S&P index fund. Now, why would I say something like that? Well, that's because the S&P 500, 30, about a third, 35% of the S&P 500 is invested in tracking, technology stocks and communication stocks. And those are usually inflation fighters because they're not capital asset heavy, meaning they don't have a bunch of buildings. It's really like, software and computers and other things like that. They're not as heavily capitalized. I mean, have capital assets. So it's and it's an inflation hedge, the S&P index fund, and also mutual funds or ETF exchange traded funds. that have in its pool of technology stocks and communication services, they also are inflation fighters. Last one I want to talk about is I bonds. What you know about those treasury bonds, interest bonds, I bonds. They are inflationary tools and tips. Treasury uh, inflation protected securities, and they paying 7% or more right now. Now, a type of U.S. Treasury bonds is an index to inflation. That's what TIPS is. In order to explicitly protect investors, these were designed from for to deal with inflation. And TIPS, they actually pay out a fixed rate every 2 years, twice. Excuse me, twice a year, not every 2 years, twice a year.
Hey, hey, Bob, we mentioned this last week with savings bonds. Now, just so you know, the maturity time frame is like 30 years. And, unless you're saving for retirement, that's not what most people are looking at. But with a 7% interest rate, if you redeem after 1 year, you have a very small penalty of 3 months interest. And if you compare that to what banks are paying in interest, you would still be ahead with it paying 7%. After 5 years invested, there is no penalty. So and as inflation goes up, the interest rate will continue to be increasing to keep pace with inflation. So that's a very good inflation fighter. And just as a matter of a short-term investment, it's still paying better than most savings accounts are paying today.
Or certificate of deposits.
That's for sure.
And also, though, they um, uh, um, state tax. There's no state taxes
That's for sure. And if
paid
you live
on
in a high tax state, that can be used. If you live in New York, uh,
DC.
DC, South
Yeah,
Carolina.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. The next item we're going to talk about is gold and silver, commodities. And the reason those are inflation fighters is because their value is variable. And typically, as the value of the dollar goes down, their value increases. And again, gold and silver can be somewhat volatile. So again, we're not saying run out and buy a lot of gold and silver, but it's just something you could consider in your portfolio in a small amount that will hedge against inflation. And there's a bunch of ways you can do it. Some people actually buy the gold bars or gold coins or whatever and have a vault and store it at their home or in a safe deposit box. My preference is a mutual fund and let someone else be the custodian, and you're not worried about someone breaking in your house and attempting to steal your gold. But either way you do it, I would never make that a very large part of my portfolio, but it does have a place in a portfolio that's looking to hedge against inflation.
Yeah, that's a good one though, because not too many people. And gold has been holding kind of steady of late, and silver have been moving like it should have been moving against inflation. But they are considered inflation fighters because the gold is real. It's a physical asset, and it tends to
And the
hold its
value,
value.
and the value is variable. The value is variable.
Yes, yeah, that's a good thing. I want to talk about another one though, as far as diversify globally. There are several major economies in the world that do not rise and fall in tandem with the United States market indices. And there's several countries around the world that don't. Adding stocks from countries can help to hedge your portfolio against domestic economic volatility. So that's always when you start talking about regional investing and global, outside of United States, Latin America, Africa, China. I mean, not China. They don't let you do that. South Korea, Australia, Italy, the UK. All of these places are other markets that you can invest in that are not affected by the things that happen in the American economy. So that's another way to hedge against inflation.
Hey,
Um,
Bob, and another way to look at that is every region or every country's economic cycle is at different points. And so, like the US has been on a roll the last several years, and there's some other regions of the world that are not quite there yet. So, if you're betting on what's going to go up in the future, you look at something that's been rolling for a while or something that's just starting to roll. That's another way of looking at investing in different regions because they are at different points in their economic cycle. And it just, again, it spreads your risk. If something bad happens in the US, you've got some money in Europe, it will not affect Europe as much as it will affect the US. So that's what he's talking about when he talks about diversifying globally.
and it's easy to do because are a bunch of international funds out there that you can invest in. As far as mutual funds and ETFs, exchange traded funds that you can actually easily purchase international stocks. I mean,
Mhm.
even in the thrift savings plan, the government 401k plan, they have an international stock fund. All all of the major financial companies that have products, have international stocks, and that's another way to hedge against. Now they're volatile, too. I mean, not volatile; they risky, but they are hedges against inflation in America. So consider that. Don't want to say hello out there to our frat brother, Charles Clutch McCargo, who's always tuning in, and he always be sharing our site with other people, getting in more listeners. So I'd like to say hello to all our listeners out there. We really appreciate y'all tuning in, and make sure you tell other people to tune in because we want to try to help as many people as we can. Um, got oh man, we got my man Bill Larson. What's up, Bill? Glad you checking us out, man. Hope the family's fine. And Barry Clifford. What's up, Barry? Got a lot of people out there checking us out, Dope. And I'd like to thank you all. So Dope, one of the last things I want to talk about, what is the FITT shows going to do about inflation? Because we usually share, what me and Dope do. Not that we telling you to do what we do, but we just want to share what we do, so you can see we ain't not just telling you what to do, but we're doing it. So Dope, you go first.
Yeah, I'm going to buy. I'm definitely going to buy some savings bonds. That's as I think I mentioned a couple of months ago. I bought some Pfizer stock just because it's paying a 4% dividend, which is another way of just parking some short term money. So I'm going to buy some savings bonds and get some of that 7% money and leave that leave that sitting there knowing it's practically guaranteed as long as inflation continues to go up. And I'm going to put some money into a gold mutual fund. Again,
Wow.
not a
Wow.
lot. I'm not going to put like 100,000. I might put about 5,000 into something, just so I got that coverage there. And I'm gonna continue to invest in technical stocks. And I kind of question that because they have grown so much. I mean, my Microsoft that's made me a lot of money, and you can look and say, has it reached its peak between Microsoft, Apple, and some of the other tech stocks that have done really well. But as long as people continue to buy those products, that stock's going to continue to grow, and I don't see an end for those anytime in the near future. And so I'm going to leave money invested in those. And again, that's how I hedge inflation.
Yeah, well, it's interesting though you say that because I'm actually, because I got, granddaughter and a daughter that's 18-year old that's in first year at University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. So I'm definitely put some money into the I bonds, I bonds too, saving bonds, because that's 7% and state tax free. Is a good bet, and it's an inflation fighter because inflation is here. Don't know how long it's here, but inflation is here, and that's an inflationary tool. So I plan to do that though, and I'm also looking to to purchase this IUL though. It's called that's an index universal life insurance. And what it is obviously index universal life is tied to the market. And there's two types of insurance you all. I'm sure some of you know, but let me just clarify that. There's term insurance and then there's whole life. That is the term insurance is what it is, temporary insurance, and it's just a death benefit. You're just paying for the insurance. Now, there's different types of whole life. The traditional whole life used to be with cash values, and they guaranteed 4%. But then they came up with universal life insurance, which was tied to the market. So you got a higher percentage rate because it's tied to the market. Now they have an index universal life. And the thing about universal life, though, it's not life insurance is not just used as a death benefit. It's more used as an investment these days because life insurance is tax free. It works like a Roth. You know, the money earned in it is tax free. You can take it out. And right now, they got IULs paying like about 7%. And so there's no capital gains taxes on things like that. So that could be really valued around maybe, I don't know, maybe 13, 14, 15% is the equivalent of that investment because it's tax free. So, and it can build up and you can put it, you could be the owner and have your kids as the beneficial, as the insurer, and as they get older, you can transfer it over to their names, and they can take it and have it for the rest of their life and use it for any uh, life situations. And that's what a lot of people know nowadays. Though with insurance, it's not just life insurance like death benefits. You can use that for life events that happen. If you get disabled, if you lose your job, you can now take that money out. And so that's another good kind of product that I'm thinking is good to be able to use, whether it's inflationary or not, or inflationary tool or not. So that's what, and I'm sticking with some of the tech stocks too, though. And I'm gonna hold my serious. Maybe
Theory.
one day, serious, serious. Stop it. So old man, goddamn. So dope. So with that, my man, we've come to that part of the show where let's talk about the summaries and takeaways.
Okay, we keep preaching this. Review your portfolio mix. Make sure it's at your risk level and make sure it's built to hedge against inflation.
In order to get ahead, you must counter inflation. Like I said up at the top of the show, inflation can eat through your savings, can eat through the purchasing power of your dollar. So in order, you don't want to be behind the eight ball. You want to be in front of the eight ball because inflation is all about increasing the cost of goods, and you want to stay ahead. So you need to either keep pace with it or outpace it, and you want to make sure you stay ahead.
Find your personal sweet spot between being conservative and aggressive in investing. It's not the same for everybody. You can get other people's thoughts, but that has to be your own comfort level of where you need to be. You don't want to be too conservative. You don't want to be too aggressive. You got to find your very own sweet spot.
And don't forget the old faithful savings bonds. I mean, I still got double E bonds, though. You know, where you purchase them at half the face value. Say you purchase $100 bond and $50 in that maturity is worth $100. I still got those, but now they got things like I bonds and tips, Treasury inflation protected securities. So they got different products that can really help you.
In our last bit of wisdom, the key to building wealth is not knowing everything, but knowing the right thing.
That's the God's honest truth, though. So with that, hope y'all share this information. Remember, this information is stored out on uh, Facebook and it's archived on YouTube. You can go and see all our last shows. This is our 29th show. We have been covering everything from taxes to investing to scams, identity theft to retirement, to 401k plans, 403b plans, to mutual funds. So go out there and check them out, y'all. We've covered a whole gamut, and we plan to cover a lot more. I'm partial to last week's show, though, because we did a year-end review. Please go out there, you all, and share that with people for things you need to consider to review over the past year as far as getting ready to go into the new the tax season, talking about charitable giving, talking about withholdings, talking about all kinds of things that you need to consider at, in the year end. So please go out there and look at that show. So with that, dope, thanks, man. You're great as always. We're a team, and tune in next week, the FITT Show, financial information for today and tomorrow, 8 p.m. every Thursday. Peace. Have a wonderful evening.
Take care.